good evening. How are you guys doing this Monday evening? Welcome to the Early Show with Latha Srinivasan. Today we have a very interesting author and filmmaker, Samit Basu. Hi, hello. And Samit, made his first film, directed his first film in 2019 for Netflix called House Arrest with Ali Faisal. And it was a very interesting movie. In case you guys haven't seen it, do go watch it. It's available on Netflix and it's a Netflix original. And the thing about Samit Basu is he's a lot, if you've seen his writing, he's penned numerous books and he's also written for kids, which is very interesting. And he's going to join me now. And I like talking to different kinds of people. It gives you a very different perspective of things. And Samit is a very interesting person. Hi, Samit.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm very good. This is actually the first time I've gone live on Instagram. So if I make any huge mistakes, please forgive me.
Oh, please, all of us keep making bloopers. Don't worry about it. Technology, there's always challenges. Firstly, thanks, Samit, for agreeing to do this.
No, my pleasure.
And you're in Delhi right now. How are things over there?
Well, I mean, my neighborhood is very quiet. People, by and large, are going out more than they should, but they've started wearing masks now, which is nice.
Okay.
It's been well, privileged, I guess, in this neighborhood.
Yeah, a lot of people. I spoke to another director just a while back, for something else, and he was also saying, we are the privileged lot. We feel like the white guys, But yeah, I understand, where this is coming from. Samit, the reason why I wanted to talk to you is your books are very interesting, very different,
Thank you.
And you also made House Arrest, which is a very different kind of film, especially in Hindi cinema, which you're very aware of, right? Yeah. And first things first, you're a lot into sci-fi. So, and you write around that as well, of course, you also write children's books, which is very diverse. I mean, very, two ends of the spectrum, but then you do that as well. So what is this fascination with sci-fi that you have?
Well, actually, it wasn't so much a fascination with sci-fi when I started, which was now 17 or 18 years ago. So I just, at that point of time, as we all remember, our bookstores weren't divided by genre and there weren't sections and so on. So there were just books in many heaps, and one elderly guy who knew where everything was and who could somehow look at you and tell what book you should read. So I read a lot of fantasy books without being very aware that they were fantasy books. So when I started writing also, I was just writing things which were the sort of stories I liked, not aware really of what the boundaries of fantasy or sci-fi were until I got published and was told that, oh, you're a fantasy and science fiction writer. At which point I was like, okay, that's nice. And so then, of course, now almost 2 decades have passed. And I'm still doing it because, I mean, that whole thing about the imagination and where it can take you is something that has fascinated me. And also, I didn't have that sense that my own life or the world around me was going to be particularly interesting to anyone other than me and my mother. So I thought I would write about slightly larger scale things. Now, this, of course, became an issue when, when say film people first started getting in touch and saying that we'd like to do a movie. Back in the days of 2005, 2006 and so on. But then they would see my ideas and say, no, this costs far too much money.
Right.
For anything we could let you do. Which is why ultimately many years later, when I finally kind of co-wrote and co-directed a movie, it was set in a single flat. Because I had learned to cut down the imagination from literally inventing a planet to, I will not even leave the flat, just please let me make a movie.
Right. But you went to the other end of the spectrum also and you wrote children's books. See, not many authors actually have that diverse a range, where they can do adult, fiction for adults and then even for kids. right? So suddenly, where did the kids' books come from?
No, so the kids' books really came from. It was something that I'd always been interested in doing because a lot of the books that I'd really enjoyed were sort of books for all ages. So even as a child, reading your Adrian Moles and your Alice in Wonderlands and so on. These are not really. I mean, of course, they are children's books because the protagonists are young, but they are really books that people of all ages can enjoy.
Right.
And so what happened was there
Shreya
was.
Pilgaonkar says she likes your haircut. Your actor in house arrest. Okay, go on.
Shreya
Sorry.
Pilgaonkar has been sledging me since the day we met. It is, and I hope to have the opportunity to work with her again and take revenge, take
Okay.
terrible revenge for this.
Yeah.
But what happened with the children's books was actually I was spending years in Bollywood meetings on failed projects, right?
Okay.
And and you have no doubt met many people who have done this process until they've gone wholly insane. So for me, the only way to kind of survive and escape from this
Yeah.
process and retain some kind of mental wellness, so to speak, was to write books that I could just for the sheer joy of writing, one could do an experiment and try a new space, and that's where the children's books came from.
Right.
So
But
yeah,
Turbulence was an international bestseller as well, which came out, I think, in 2012, right?
yeah, abroad it
Now,
was
that
abroad.
could have easily been made into a film, given that it was such a bestseller. But why didn't that happen?
So see, I'm not supposed to talk about it, but it has been
Oh,
optioned
okay.
to be made into a show, and
Okay.
the but it's up to the
Finally, that's
producer.
good news.
It's I mean I just don't want to jinx it, like
Okay.
it's because I feel like at this stage with things turning into shows and films that if I say something bad will happen.
Right.
So it's the producer will announce it when she's ready.
Okay.
Um,
Okay. Right.
so
So we
but
know
yeah,
the
but
producer is a she.
several, yeah, that was not an accident. Um, so, So no, so actually
Okay.
several of the books have been fortunate enough to have several of the books in options right now, but I
Right.
can't talk about them until something happens.
Okay. Interestingly, I was speaking to Ashman Thani, the author, right?
Right.
And last week, in fact, and he was telling me that his books, were optioned, and then they changed hands, and then some of them are still holding on to the rights, but eventually nothing got made.
Right, right.
And what he decided to do was, because again, his genre, mythological fiction, is very difficult to make into a film, right?
Yeah.
Unless you look at something like a Bahubali, which
Hmm,
requires
hmm,
hundreds of crores of investment. So
hmm.
he is now actually writing his own OTT series. So he said, I might as well start
Yeah.
writing.
Yeah.
So do you have plans like that too? Do you want to start writing for the OTT space rather than, get your books optioned into
No, absolutely.
series?
I mean, and kind of House Arrest did come from that, because what was happening on House Arrest was, so at that point we were trying to make Turbulence into a movie in India, um,
Right.
and it was a very difficult process simply because it was a fairly large project to happen in one movie and required stars for the budget and all of that, and so we're running that whole circle, and I was actually sitting with my friend Shashank Ghosh, with whom I was failing to make another project.
Right.
Um, and I was asking what do I have to write to get it made, because I'm
Right.
just sick and tired of doing meetings. If I
Yeah.
wanted to do meetings, I wouldn't be writing books for a living. So he said, just do a murder mystery set in a single flat.
Yeah.
So instead, I followed that instruction very carefully and did a rom-com set in a single flat. And so absolutely, I intend to write for more films and shows and all of that,
Okay.
because it's great fun.
Right. When I asked you last week, for another story, whether OTT platforms are playing it safe, you
Mhm.
believe that they are, because most of the projects that they commission, it's crime, thrillers, murder mysteries, or the cops, chasing the bad guys, and of course the horror genre, which seems to do well in India. Why do
Hmm.
you think, they don't want to really experiment and move out of that comfort zone? Are they worried about it not being a hit with the audience, or is there something more to it?
See, I think it's a number of things. I think first of all that, when we're talking about playing it safe, it's not like any cultural space in India is not playing it safe at the moment, right? And with the meet Tingmo.
Oh, how cute!
Yeah. So he just came and stood at the balcony because he has strong views on OTT platforms as well.
Okay.
So then culturally, we are not in a space where anyone is putting money into anything that's a risk of any kind, right? So if you're looking at anything that's experimental or anything that's out of any very familiar box, then even publishers of books aren't doing it. And that's something where if you compare what it costs to put a book together compared to what it costs to put a film together, then Tingmo will tell you, is it a lot? He's not even talking. Uh, but even in these spaces, people are just not taking any creative risks because both economically and culturally, we're at a space where there seems to be a sense that anything new is a huge risk and no one wants to do it, and people are just trying to figure out how to, make very tried and tested things again, and that's going to be a challenge for everything. Like even when we were doing house arrest, it's because it's so small. I'd assumed that we would have just done we've gone off into some strange tangential direction. But even within that very small and fairly carefree space, there was always a lot of, we must be very clear about the audience will like this in terms of the music or the framing or
Right.
any of that. A lot of stuff that I didn't know about.
Right.
And so I wouldn't single out OTT platforms at all, because in fact, if you look at things like um, an OTT platform's idea of doing something edgy is probably something like, Zoya Akhtar does a show which creatively perhaps goes a little bit further than what you would expect from a theatrical film,
Right.
right? But at the
Right.
same time, Zoya Akhtar is, I mean, how many times does she have to prove her amazing mainstream credentials? So to
Right.
me, she would be the safest bet to direct any film in the country, right? So from one point of view, that's not edgy at all. That's just putting a big project in the hands of, into very safe hands.
Right.
But from the other, we're talking a little bit about things that we might not be supposed to. So it's also an edgy project. So that's where we are in India. We
Right.
are not making BoJack Horseman anytime soon.
Yeah.
Though every third meeting you'll see we should do something like BoJack Horseman. You start there and you end up with Bal Ganesh. So it's a very large divide.
Yeah, absolutely. I think,
Yeah.
people are excited initially, like, let's do something different. And then I think when it actually comes to realization of the project, then they start getting jitters about, oh, is the audience going to like it? Is it worth the investment? And so on and so forth.
Yeah.
See, I
Yeah.
can understand that at least with films, because
Yeah.
the investments are huge, for commercial cinema. But
Yeah.
at least I felt, in the OTT space in India, there is room for experimentation because it doesn't require such huge budgets. You can make smaller, you can try to experiment with smaller kind of, maybe in a couple of crores, maybe in
Yeah.
5-10 crores rather than, 100 crore project, for instance.
Yeah.
That's where I'm coming from. But having
Right.
said that, at least, in the sci-fi space, there's nothing much at all as far as India is concerned, isn't it?
Yeah, there isn't. Though I'm really looking forward to seeing Aarti's. I don't know how to pronounce her surname properly. The one with the spaceship. It's called Passengers, I think. It's a sci-fi
Okay.
film that did very well in the festivals recently
Okay.
and won an award in Texas. Artik
Okay.
Kadhav, I would say. Yeah.
Okay.
So also stuff is happening. See, the thing is, I'll tell you what the problem is, and I'll be more frank than I should be,
Uh-huh.
which is that.
Uh-huh.
Which is that what happens in India is that when you're looking at it from a creative point of view, right? There are plenty of people here who are able to both imagine and visualize a big sci-fi fantasy project. They're able to execute it also. There's no lack of skill.
Of talent. Yeah.
There's no lack
Yeah.
of skill. Like even, I mean, if you see, however, if we don't compare, say, Bahubali to your Marvel movies, it's
Right.
still quite an extraordinary feat of large scale filmmaking, right?
Right.
But it's
Right.
also very new, so you can't expect it to reach the levels of expertise that people who are specialists in that field have over there.
Right.
But if you compare it to, say, a big 1980s Hollywood fantasy movie, which is about the same level of experience in that specific genre, then I think it does absolutely fine, right? So there's no lack of ideas, there's no lack of expertise, but the problem often becomes is that at some point of time when you need to do very high budget projects, you run into the old star system, and that star system is not going to move creatively outside its comfort zone at all. So, and neither is that system going to move out of its comfort zone, neither is the finance system going to move out of its comfort zone. So somehow you land up with something which might have the visual aesthetic of sci-fi and fantasy, but does not have the imaginative heart of those projects. And so
Right.
then you neither do one nor do you do the other, and the project falls creatively and production wise in some uncomfortable space in between where no one is happy.
Yeah.
Right, the audience thinks, what is this weird shit? The people who understand the space think this is nonsense, and then everyone goes home. Maybe you sell some toys at best.
Yeah.
Right, and also eventually you end up making it because you have to go as broad as possible, and you're scared that the audience is not familiar with this kind of storytelling. You end up making a children's film,
Right.
which is not going to work for an audience that is seeing Mad Max Fury Road on the one hand, or is seeing Get Out on the other hand, and they expect a sophistication. And if you can't creatively aim for that kind of sophistication, then what are you going to do with the production budget? So that's the situation.
Now I know why your meetings don't go well. But creatively, then are you dissatisfied? When people approach you, right?
Yeah.
What are the kind of projects do they want to work you on? I mean,
I'm going to be. I don't know which studio heads watch your.
Nobody, don't worry, nobody.
But we shall find out from which studios I actually don't get work from. But I'm willing to take that ride with you if that's where you're going. So what happens in India is that when you're looking at large budget projects, right? So I think for the last 12 to 13 years, every year I get this call from 2 or 3 different producers, which is there's a blindingly original idea, which is why don't we make Ramayan but like Lord of the Rings? Okay. So what has happened is on the left-hand column you have Ramayana or Mahabharata, and why don't we make it like has changed? So it used to be Lord of the Rings, then became Harry Potter, then it became Marvel Universe, then it became Game of Thrones, now it's become Marvel Universe again. So the thing is, the problem with all of this is that you want to make something that's blindingly original and completely new, but also completely successful in the market previously. Right?
Yeah.
So these films are being made. There's always a Ramayan that's like the Lord of the Rings being made in Bollywood at any point of time. Sometimes there are 2 or 3, and these projects will go on for years and they will get made. But I don't want to do that. Like there are many wonderful people who understand the film space much better than I do, and who have and in all honesty, and this is not just me laughing at the system, they'll be able to do that a lot better than I will. Because there are language understandings that I don't have, there are audience understandings that I don't have, and at least I've been doing this long enough to know what I'm not good at.
Okay.
And this is that.
Okay. So, given that you're not a typical the mainstream, right, kind of director that you want to, that the others are, right?
Yeah.
So, in terms of work, then it becomes very limited for a person like you.
No, you know what? Actually, not really, and that's actually where I feel like it's not like the OTT platforms are being particularly playing safe. Because if they were playing safe, someone like me would not have been allowed anywhere near a film set. Let alone in a co-director's position, or having done most of the writing on that script. Even though I would say Shashank was easily a co-writer on that script, but they are far more open to new ideas, new voices. Though there's while there's certainly a lot of thought going into how does this fit into our understanding of the broader audience, and there's an overwhelming pressure to have large audiences because India is, I think, for any international streaming platform, India is a place where they're looking to get huge numbers of audiences and very easily.
Right.
So if you don't meet those expectations, then I can only imagine there's huge pressures on you inside the organization to deliver the kind of numbers that you said you would deliver when we gave you the job. So, but despite that, if you look at the list of things that are coming out on your Netflix or your Amazon and things like that, I would say that creatively they have gone much further than, say, the theatrical film has gone in the last 5 or 6 years.
That's true. Yeah.
Some have been unsuccessful, some have been successful, but if you look overall at what they're trying to do, I would say there's no lack of ambition. There's certainly compromise. But I don't think that, the only space where you can actually do what you want without compromise is you're writing a book and there's really nothing else. There's just you and your computer, and no one else's life is at stake when you're doing that work. So, I mean, while I have a lot of fun making, this is not going to go well at all.
That's okay. That's okay.
No, he's looking inappropriately at this dog who lives down the street. So,
Okay.
so I don't want to be around when he does that. Yeah.
Okay. So how much are you willing to compromise? Hello? Hello. Yeah.
Willing to compromise? Only if the script demands it.
Okay.
So,
okay.
No. See, the thing is, there are obviously points in where I won't go, in the sense that there are kind of personal value systems where I will not put that into any project I'm working on, no matter what the benefits are. But having said that, I think partly because I've been doing this in books, in comics, in the media, and now film and shows as well, the more you work across different media, the more you become aware of what the limitations and the opportunities of each one are, and it would be ridiculously immature of me to, even if it was something as simple as a book of mine is being adapted to screen,
right.
to expect it to be a faithful adaptation would just be foolish, because when you're creating work in a different medium, you're effectively just starting from scratch. You might be borrowing a lot, but it's a new project entirely, and it's not even supposed to be the same. Similarly, when you're, when especially out of a country like India, if I'm doing a script, I know that there are places where and this is a conversation I've had with producers sometimes, is you can go there if you like, but you're not going there with us. And I think what often happens is that you spend so much time, and so many people spend so much time trying to put one of these things together, that by the time you're, in a place where the calls are, we either don't make this thing at all, or we make it with 3 things that you hate and 7 things that you love, and none of the 3 things that you hate are 3 things that would want to make you take your name off the project, then chances are you just go ahead. But it's not that different from, running an organization or running a team. And these are more kind of operational compromises than fundamental ones, I think.
Right. No, because you've been a novelist for many years and you've written so many books, right? So you've had that independence. And then now, this web series, the OTT platform, or even films, it's a very different space, because you need to think about the producer, you need to think about other aspects, right? It becomes extremely collaborative. Everything doesn't become your own decision. But what did working on House Arrest, which is your debut film, right? What did working on House Arrest teach you? Like, coming from the book space to the film space, what were some of the key lessons you learned?
Well, I think the biggest key lesson is that it's, and this again, none of these lessons were surprises so much as things that sort of, they were driven in very hard on every day of the shoot, right?
Okay.
I think the biggest one is the degree to which films or shows or any kind of 100 people on a set together trying to make things are, the lack of control is extraordinary, right? And the degree of chaos and the importance of other people, and the sheer chance through which any of it comes together correctly, and the likelihood of all of it going horribly wrong at any instant and you not being able to do anything about it, is so high. It's fascinating, really. Also, as a the sheer popularity and power of the film medium in India is something that, while numerically you're aware of it, just by following things like box office numbers. So,
Right.
but the effect that just working in any capacity in these projects has on people around you who aren't reading so much, it's extraordinary to observe. So as a human experience, I think I was very lucky to get a chance to work on these projects, because there's fuel for at least, I would say, 10 books set in the film industry that I know exactly who the people are that that are in them.
So
So
are you planning to write a book around that?
only
Would
when
you
I
ever
retire
want to?
from any, only when I
Oh,
abandon any hope of making
you
more
don't want to
films.
rub anybody the wrong way.
I don't want to just cancel my entire career. So uh,
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Understood.
I see a question. Vimo has
Yeah.
asked, was house arrest autobiographical? No, absolutely not. Like
Hmm.
I do spend a lot of time at home, but that's just work, and I don't spend. I don't think I ever spend more than 2 or 3 days without leaving the house. So no,
And he had more of a phobia, didn't it? Didn't he?
absolutely, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
also
It was more of a
that, I
phobia.
mean, that whole thing where these lovely people just come and drop themselves into your life also didn't happen.
Okay.
So so yeah, so it was not autobiographical in any aspect.
Okay. So how,
Yeah.
speaking about house arrest specifically, what did Ali Faisal like about the script?
I'd like to think all of it. I I, I don't know. No, I think so. He's got extraordinary range, right? So
Yeah. He's a very talented actor. Yeah.
so I think what he liked most probably was that it was unusual for compared to the other stuff he was getting, whether it was kind of big Hollywood period things or
Right.
action things, or I think it was kind of also in many ways the opposite of Mirzapur, which was, I think, the project he done here at the time. And it was also, I think, what Shashank was. I mean, I didn't realize the significance of this at the time when we were talking to actors, but he was
Right.
then 20 days and you're done,
Right.
which for an actor who had been doing these large epic projects, I'm sure that was a certain incentive as well.
Yeah.
But no, I think he had read the script, I think, one of the earliest English drafts, which was um, a little more strange in the things that were happening in it. So I'm maybe it was that he just thought, I think it was a different humor from what he was used to.
Right.
And we got along. I think Shashank and he and I got along very well, and the other actors as they came in on. So we were very lucky in our actors. Um, so the people were all just lovely to
To work with.
work with,
Okay.
and I certainly had a lot of fun. I don't know if they did. They said they did, but they're actors, so you know who can tell? I wouldn't be able to tell if they were lying. But I think they were okay.
Okay. Do you
Yeah.
see yourself fitting well into the film industry?
Yeah. Why not? It's like, I mean, I think so. I think it's got a very diverse range of people in it, and I've been, I mean, the number of films I've not made is ridiculous. Uh, so I actually have met a really vast array of very kind of strange and interesting and also very nice people there. So I've
Right.
never had this sense of not belonging there, because it's not unidimensional in any way.
Right.
So I think the industry itself is so large that eventually you find the crowd that you're supposed to spend time with and that you appreciate, right? Because I've also, of course, met people that I absolutely despised on sight, and
Okay.
I didn't want to spend, like, I didn't even want to have the meeting with them, let alone do the project, And I think it's also each of the different because again, whether it's books or comics or journalism, which were largely the fields that are encountered at that point, the ability to spot the bad people increases with the number of people that you meet, right? And people
Right.
are the same everywhere. So I have to say that I was much more apprehensive about film people than it turned out was necessary, because I've also
Okay.
met some really wonderful, really bright, really everything one could wish for in friends over there. So no.
With all the, you've had many meetings, the projects didn't fructify. Was there a lot of frustration developing for you
Um,
personally?
Initially, yes, because the best thing about books is that when books end and books come out. Um, and I'd reached a point where I think I'd written 8 or 9 different screenplays, and none of them had been produced. And in each case, it turned out that there wasn't much I could do on the project, because it was always like, okay, we just can't get funding for this gigantic sci-fi thing, or the actor has run away and disappeared and is doing many other things, or the company's shut down. Sorry, So, so it is frustrating. But then, if publishing teaches you one thing, it teaches you patience. Because you have to wait indefinitely for anything to go on. And also, I mean, once you've made your first set of huge mistakes and you figured out, I'm not going to do this again, but it's
Right.
always been something where if you want to do something, you just have to peg away at it until it happens in some form.
Okay.
And so and that's the same across industries. So if you're just reasonably determined that fine, this one failed, okay, 10 more have now failed, but okay, now one more, let's try. So eventually you get somewhere. Of course, it takes ages. I think I started doing all of this when I was about 22, and it's been a while now. But you
Right.
also get used to it, and it's fun. And when you think about people who are constrained to do jobs that don't have any of this fun, then at the end of the day, you're still very privileged to get to do any of this.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, coming to the pandemic and what's been happening, has it given you more creative ideas for your next book
None.
or anything of that? None?
None at all.
Okay.
So no, but having said that, no, I was launching a book through the middle of the pandemic, right?
Right.
So
Yeah.
the new novel came out, and so most of the time has just gone. The supposed creative time has gone in doing things like interviews, or just obsessively tracking the sales rank of the book,
Right.
or so I mean, when I'm launching a book, in any case, it's not like I expect myself to be writing actively through it at all. So now I'll have to sit down and think about what next. But
Okay.
I'm as you've probably guessed by now, I'm remarkably easy on myself. So I never mind when I've spent months not having a single creative idea, because I'm assuming that eventually a nice one will come.
Okay. So
Yeah.
great. And my last question to you, Samit, is when will the announcement regarding the series be made? Is there a timeline, next couple of
Um,
months or very soon, or what is it?
I don't know. I don't know at
Okay.
all. And believe me, no one wants to know more than I do.
Okay.
So
Huh.
I wish I was suppressing this information and I was actually in possession of it, but I just don't know. So when it happens, I will, of course. I mean, hopefully it will be everywhere. There's I think 3 potential announcements, and they're all quite large. So I'm hoping one or the other
Okay.
will happen before, and the others will
Okay.
happen. Yeah.
Super. And what's the first thing you want to do once all this, lockdown is over and you're able to move about freely? Is there something that you're looking forward to doing?
I haven't, because of this novel and the film before it, I haven't gone on a holiday for the last 3 years. So
Oh,
as
okay.
soon as travel becomes possible, I intend to travel. Also, I mean, my mother lives in Cal, and she hasn't been well. So I think the first thing I'll do is I'll go and see her, because
Okay,
it has been a
super.
while, and she's 83, and it's not.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But on the fun
understood.
side, I will immediately start traveling afterwards.
Okay, that's great.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Samit, for speaking to me. It was a fun conversation, and
My
much
pleasure.
love.
And thank you.
Much
Thank
love
you
to
for
your
having me.
doggy. I don't know where he's run off. Where's he gone?
He's gone. He's eloped. I'll have to go find him.
He's eloped. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, and
Thank
take
you.
care, and good
You
luck. Good
too.
luck. Bye.
Thank you. Same to you. Bye.
Bye.